Joining us now to break down the issue of schools reopening, specifically when it comes to the state of California, is Aaron Withe, the national director of the free market think tank, the Freedom Foundation. So, Aaron, this is an important topic not only for many people across the country who are hoping to send their kids back to school and parents who want a little bit of that free time back during the day, but also now, of course, elections. So I want to ask you, when it comes to schools reopening, I know it's a polarized topic right now, but is there a theme among states that are keeping schools closed?
There absolutely is a theme. Thank you for having me on, Alex.
Of course.
I take Governor Newsom down in California, for example, and what he's doing is he's pursuing the agenda of the teachers' unions. The teachers' unions are the ones that pay for his and other liberal politicians' campaigns, and they want what they've paid for. Right now, I think of one example, the Los Angeles Teachers Union, and they demanded that we had to defund the police, and only then would they consider sending their teachers back into school after the election. Governor Gavin Newsom is absolutely pursuing their agenda to create havoc going into November.
And that is problematic, I think, for a lot of families, too, because it's so clearly political. I mean, you are quite literally tying a political end to whatever you are trying to get out of this themselves, that being the teacher union. And at the same time, one thing that goes underreported in this entire lockdown conversation is what is going on also that is hurting Americans. I mean, we talk about the increase in depression. We talk about the opioid epidemic. After we were really making some progress on that front, once again, coming back into many families' lives. We talk about the increase in suicide, what this is doing for children developmentally. Is this something that you think a lot of people are leaving out of the equation when we're just talking about not sending kids back to school?
Absolutely, Alex. This affects Americans in a wide array of aspects of their lives. That's why we at the Freedom Foundation are representing various different clients to be able to get states and the country reopened. One lawsuit that we just filed in the state of California is to get kids back into school. We're representing 8 school kids down there who simply want to be able to go back into school and get the education that they deserve. Governor Gavin Newsom should not be taking their kids' education hostage, and we should be able to get them back into schools. Kids are largely unaffected by the coronavirus. Less than 100 have died in the country, and that's not to downplay the death of any child as anything less than a tragedy. But at the same time, 5 times the amount of kids have died in the flu in the same time frame. But nobody's talking about that. We need to get kids back into school and get them the education that they deserve.
And, you know, I didn't use this example before when I was saying what else is happening to some of these kids or some of the people who are being asked to stay at home, but domestic abuse has also gone up as well. And I think it's something that we need to take into account, especially when children are oftentimes the victims of that. I mean, oftentimes it's not until they go into school and their teachers realize something is going wrong that it's finally reported. And I'm very fearful that that's not going on right now because children aren't going outside to camp, school, whatever it may be. But when we look at this issue, too, there's the component of children, of course. They are the ones going back to school. But then there's also parents as well. They're looking out for the safety of their children as well, while at the same time gauging that with what it means for their life too, because some parents do work and they rely on their kid being in school in order to do so. Is there any evidence to suggest that kids or parents are supportive of the idea of getting back to school?
Absolutely, Alex. We have parents and students alike and even teachers calling our phones here at the Freedom Foundation practically daily, asking what can be done about this. And my wife is a public school teacher herself. I can tell you this online learning platform does not work. I mean, I think she's the best school teacher in the world, right? But even she can barely get 50% of her kids to get on the online platform. You may have seen the Wall Street Journal reported over the weekend that 21 million homes in America are without broadband and internet. I mean, what are we going to do? Just let those kids not get any education until these liberal governors decide that we can open schools? Yeah. It's absolutely crazy. And that's why we stand up for these school children and stand up to governors like Gavin Newsom so that we can get these kids the education that they need and what they deserve.
And I think one problem that a lot of people have with some of the lockdown orders is the uncertainty that came with them. I mean, we can look back to, I believe it was February, maybe March, where the lockdown orders first started taking place, and we were told 15 days. Now, here we are in September, going into October, and we don't know necessarily what the guidelines are for reopening. So I want to ask you this, when it comes to maybe California in particular, is there a set guideline or a milestone that they're waiting to hit before they say, okay, now we can go back to school? Or is this just an arbitrary decision and it's a wait-and-see approach for many families?
It's absolutely an arbitrary decision. When did we go from flattening the curve to eliminating the coronavirus? It's just simply never going to happen. I think that what Democrats are trying to do, governors like Gavin Newsom and other liberal governors, is they're waiting until November to make any decisions based on what they do with the coronavirus. Their idea is to create havoc going into November and paint this picture of Trump's America, where we can't go out outside our homes. We have to wear face masks. Our kids can't go into school. You have rioters and looters going into businesses and basically shutting down our economy. And I believe that's exactly their agenda and exactly what they want to achieve. And that's why we have to fight back on tyrannical governors like Gavin Newsom.
And I think that this is an issue, too, that Americans see past the politics. I mean, they don't want to play politics when it comes to children and the ability for their children to get an education and for especially schooling. I mean, that is something you can turn on the TV. I'm sure a lot of Americans like the disagreements to some degree. But when it comes to school and when it comes to children, that is something that they want to make sure is done right. And I think when it comes to this issue, a lot of people are upset with how it's become so politicized. And I think that is the problem. But Aaron Withe, I really appreciate what you're doing through your organization and coming on the program tonight and breaking down what's happening, because it's very important, especially at this time. Thank you.